You ever look at a masterpiece, a famous painting, or a classic poem, and just get the feeling there's more to it than meets the eye? Like there's a secret message, a code, buried just beneath the surface. Well, today, that's exactly what we're doing. We are cracking open a literary mystery. We're going to dive into one of the most celebrated poems in Arabic literature to uncover a high-stakes political drama that's been hiding in plain sight as a simple love song.
All right, here's our game plan. First up, we'll meet our protagonist, a poet prince in chains. Then, we're going to expose the poem's two faces, looking at it first as a love story and then decoding it as a political plea. And finally, we'll talk about what this all tells us about the incredible power of poetry as a performance. So let's set the scene. Our story starts way back in the 10th century with this truly incredible guy, Abu Firas al-Hamdani. And get this, he wasn't just a poet, he was royalty, a member of the ruling dynasty. But he wasn't just a prince either. He was a famous warrior, a real hero on the battlefield. His life was just a whirlwind of power, poetry, and danger. He was born into the ruling class, and his powerful cousin, Saif al-Dawla, even made him a governor. But then, in 962, his life takes a huge, dramatic turn. He gets captured in battle by the rival Byzantine Empire. He would end up spending 4 long years as a prisoner in Constantinople. And this period of his life, well, it's the key to our whole story. From his prison cell, Abu Firas channeled all of his frustration and his longing into a collection of poems we now call the Rumiyat, which just means Byzantine poems. Now, most of these were really direct, emotional pleas to his cousin, basically begging him to pay the ransom to get him out. But his most famous work from this time, a poem called the Ra'iyah, does something totally different. And this is where the real mystery kicks in. You see, for centuries, people have read the Ra'iyah in 2 completely different ways. It's almost like the poem has 2 faces, one that it shows to the public and one that's kept private. The contrast is just fascinating, right? On one hand, the Ra'iyah is seen as this masterpiece of unrequited love. It's celebrated for its raw, urgent emotion, telling the story of a devoted lover and his cruel, untrustworthy mistress. But on the other hand, a lot of scholars argue that beneath that surface is a coded political message, a brilliantly crafted negotiation aimed right at his cousin, the ruler, arguing for his own freedom.
So, the big question is, how can it be both? How can one piece of art operate on 2 totally different levels at the same time? To figure that out, we have to become literary detectives. So let's start by peeling back the first layer, Act 1, the beautiful, tragic love story that everyone sees on the surface. The first chunk of the poem is a classic nasib. That's an amatory prelude, basically. It's designed to grab you, to pull at your heartstrings, and to make you feel the intense pain of this poet-lover. The poem kicks off with this intense challenge. It's as if someone is looking at the poet and questioning why he isn't crying. And his response just sets the stage perfectly. His passion is this overwhelming force, but because he's a nobleman, he has to keep his feelings secret. The emotion is immediate and powerful. As the story goes on, you get this really clear picture of his torment. The poet describes himself as this perfectly loyal lover, completely devoted to a mistress who is his total opposite. She's beautiful, sure, but also treacherous and unreliable. She listens to gossip from his enemies, humiliates him, and just leaves him to suffer. And this one line, man, it just captures the entire conflict. It's such a tragic paradox, right? His greatest virtue, his loyalty, is the very thing causing his pain, all because of someone who is, by her very nature, disloyal. It's a really powerful and relatable emotional trap. It's an absolutely incredible love poem, no question. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if the treacherous mistress isn't a woman at all? To understand this hidden layer, we need to grab a new tool from our toolkit. And that tool is the idea of a speech act. Basically, it's the concept that some language isn't just about describing the world. It's about doing something in the world. The words themselves become an action designed to create a new reality. The easiest way to think about it is saying I do at a wedding. You're not just reporting on how much you love someone. Your words, in that moment, are the very action that makes you married. You are performing an act. So, with that idea in our heads, let's go back and reread the poem. Okay, so armed with this idea of a speech act, let's dive into Act 2, the political plea. We are about to decode the allegory that's been hiding just under the surface of this love story the whole time. Here it is. This is the decoder key. The loyal but suffering poet-lover is actually Abu Faras himself, the loyal relative stuck in a Byzantine prison. And the beautiful but treacherous mistress? That's a stand-in for his own cousin and ruler, Saif ad-Dawla, the man who was failing to ransom him. The slanderers are his political rivals back at court, whispering poison in the ruler's ear. Suddenly, a plea for love becomes a demand for political action. And just in case his audience wasn't getting the hint, Abu Faras drops a clue that is almost impossible to miss. He calls his mistress my uncle's daughter. Now, why is that so important? Because his actual relationship to his ruler, Saif al-Dawla, was as a cousin, literally his uncle's son. The code here is razor thin. It's a direct and pretty daring wink to the poem's real audience. After he pleads his case through this hidden story, the poem completely shifts gears. The second half is a faqra, which is a kind of boast. But this is not just him bragging about how great he is. Nope. It's a carefully structured argument, a verbal performance designed to prove his own value and convince his family that he is worth the price of the ransom. He builds his case step by step. First, he reminds everyone of his skills as a warrior and his noble character. Second, he explains away his capture, blaming it on fate, not on any failure of his own. Third, he asserts his unique value, famously comparing himself to irreplaceable gold versus cheap, common copper. And finally, he signs off by reaffirming his undying loyalty, reminding them exactly what they stand to lose if they abandon him. So what's the big deal? Why does rereading the poem this way even matter? Well, because it completely changes how we think about what poetry can do. It shows us that art isn't just a passive mirror reflecting the world, but an active performance within it. This poem wasn't just describing his loyalty or his frustration. It was the action itself. It was Abu Faras performing his loyalty, performing his own worthiness, and performing a high-stakes negotiation for his life and his honor, all through the sheer power of words. And that really reveals a deeper truth about art, doesn't it? It shows us that art can be an incredibly powerful tool. In situations where everything is on the line, art is almost never just art for art's sake. It can be used to persuade, to negotiate, and even to challenge power by throwing down what you could call a poetic challenge, forcing the audience to respond. The source material for this analysis really puts it perfectly. It says that Abu Faras has performed his side of the loyalty contract with his poem. So now, the ball is in his family's court. It's up to them to rise to his poetic challenge and perform their end of the deal by getting him freed. The poem isn't just asking for an answer, it's demanding one. This whole story just makes you wonder, right? It leaves us with this final, nagging question that kind of changes how you might look at, well, everything, from a painting to a song. What other famous works of art out there might be hiding a secret message, a desperate plea, or a political negotiation, just waiting for someone to finally crack the code?